The earliest stuff that I recognized as song would have been my father singing either, you know, World War II era, marching songs, right? Over hill, over dale, we'll hit the dusty trail, SSK signs go rolling, etc. Right? It's high, high heat for the field artillery. So I just remember my dad singing those, marching songs. He would rarely, lapse into some sort of Irish ballad or something like that. I never knew exactly where they were from, but he would sing a line or two, something. I'll take you home again, Kathleen, whatever. So that was absolutely the earliest. And then the next kind of formative stuff where I recognized it was song was from my mom's side of the family. My aunt Dorothy, Dorothy Sifter, was a folk singer, and you know, she was like an actual, like, early '60s, just sort of post beatnik communist folk singer with the long black hair and the gut string guitar.
Perfect.
And she would send me for Christmas one year. She sent me a book of like late 1800s Canadian fishermen labor organizing protest songs. Or it was like that, you know, like just so out there. And then after that, then I mean, it was like maybe early middle '60s, and like suddenly the Beatles were everywhere. So it was a little bit of my dad, singing the marching songs, and a little bit of my aunt Dottie singing the folk song, and then everybody got hit over the head with the Beatles, and I think that would be you know not unusual for anybody from my generation to you know call it like that. It's a little bit of the family, and then you know Beatlemania.
Can you like pinpoint the time when like instrumental music, improvisational music, when you really like got your eyes opened up to just how awesome that could be?
I got it from both sides of the glass, probably around the same time. But I was a young teen, and I remember being at some friend's house. I don't even remember who now. And I had a guitar, or there was a guitar there, electric guitar, plugged in a little amplifier. He had a drum set, and we were kind of like under the stairs or something like that. It was some weird spot, and we were playing. And all I knew how to do was like make a couple of little boxes. I could make a little rectangle here or there, and we were just like making noise. And then I realized like these little boxes were like connected. I was so
Whoa.
thrilled. I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, you know, I'm sure it was, similar to somebody going downhill on skis for the first time or something like, am I really doing this? But I was really doing it. And I was just like so excited because I realized that you could just like kind of kind of mess with it and have fun. So that was exciting. So that was me personally from the playing side, and I was maybe um I don't know, 15 or something like that. I doubt it. I was 16. I think by 16 I was all in. I decided I'm going to be a guitar player. Like that was a good idea at the time. But there's no question that the music that I heard that probably most completely dropped my jaw back in the day was Allman Brothers Live at the Fillmore.
Mm.
That was probably the record, along with 50 other records. But you know, that was probably the one where I really kind of felt the power. And then also early on, instrumentally, was there's some record, I think it was Live at Monterey Pop or something like that, that had a side of Ravi Shankar, Ali Akbar
Mm.
Khan, and Al Raka, right? And that might have been that might have been the recording where the people clapped for them tuning or something. Um, but I heard that, some of that early North Indian classical music in the States, and that totally kicked my ass.
People
and
clapping for the tuning.
yeah, and, I think all the opera concerts were just tuning. They're like all excited, you know.
I'd love to hear you talk about something that you believe now that you didn't believe when you were younger.
As a youth, I rejected faith,
Mm.
right? Um, my dad was Byzantine Roman Catholic, so you know the mass was in Latin and stuff like that. And it was just the whole thing was just a freaking nightmare. And my mom was a good Christian woman, probably what would have been like Episcopalian back then or something. The whole thing, man, the whole church thing and the whole God thing freaked me out. I was like, this is something's wrong with these people. I was like, I don't get it. I really didn't, you know. Now, you know, 60 years later, I'm definitely not religious by any stretch of the imagination, but I understand better the place that faith takes just in human civilization, really. You know what I mean? It's like the idea, and this is going on all the time, the idea that you can believe something in the absence of evidence or to believe something in the presence of evidence to the contrary is, you know, simultaneously, I think that the like the engine for a lot of great works and also the reason we have so much trouble, you know. It might have something to do with um, just understanding what it means to know something in the first place. You know what I mean?
Can you kind of expand on how you see its place?
No, just real generally, it's the idea that if you're going to do something, you really have to believe in it. You know what I mean? Like, and just anything like playing the guitar. I wanted to play the guitar. Every single person in the family sat me down and wagged their finger in my face. It was like, "You're crazy! Don't you dare! You know, get a job over there at the steel at ingot mold. Yeah, the hazardous duty pay. Go down in the big crucible with that big thing and chip the slag off the inside of the vessel with your hazard suit on. And you get a bowling ball every week and a Mellotron and a Riviera to drive around in and some kind of terrible disease when you're 30 or whatever. Um, but they were all convinced I should go get a job at the steel. And I wanted to play the guitar. But all the evidence, you know, all available evidence pointed to this is a dumb idea, you know, but I wanted to do it. I like believed in, I don't know what I believed in. I don't know, maybe I just believed in doing what I felt like doing,
Mm.
you know, or I believed like, well, I'll show them. And if I don't, I'll at least go to better parties, you know. I don't really, you know what I mean? I don't know exactly what I was thinking, but that's an example. You know what I mean? You have to have, you have to have some faith to have the belief that you can do something, that you can accomplish something. And, you know, so in some ways, maybe it's like the foundation for courage or, you know, something
Ooh,
like that. You
I
know, it's like,
love it.
there's like great stuff happens because you can believe, and you can believe when everything is screaming in your face that nah, it's not going to work, you know. And so I see that as both a good and bad thing. It's not fair to like completely reject the idea of faith and then still have a, a, a useful picture of the world, because people don't act like on you know, logic or evidence. Very often they just act on, you know, emotion or, you know, fear or something.
This is Flowers on the Stage, a podcast about being creative and finding success. To support it, please check out our sponsors, New Belgium Brewing, Thrax CBD, and Ticket Relief, the ticketing company that plants trees with a portion of each ticket sold. And now, back to the episode.
I'd love to hear you describe your favorite like personal qualities, like traits or attributes and people that you like to surround yourself with? Like some of the
Oh,
things you admire most about,
oh,
yeah,
that's
about like
easy.
your favorite people.
I like people with a sense of humor, mostly. You know what I mean? Um, I just think it's entertaining. It's entertaining. I stay entertained when people around me are smart enough to just be in a situation and and find the humor in it. You know, I find it entertaining.
Amen. I like how you said smart enough to find the humor in it.
Not everybody's smart enough to see the funny stuff, or or as I guess it was Ram Dass back in the day said that like the whole idea of this life is that we're playing hide and seek with God. You just have to be able to find Him anywhere, and if you can see Him, under the worst of circumstances, and uh, there it is. And so I'm like that with like that with comedy. If something's funny, man, I'm so happy. And when things are all screwed up, if something's funny, if I can find a humor in it, I'm like, yay. So that's what I want.
I love it. So talking specifically about music, what types of things that either you play or other people play excite you the most?
Oh, well, that's not fair. It's different things in different music. Um, I listen to this. It's like Los Orientals, the Parag. What the hell is it? This Peruvian funk band from the '70s. It's just like a salsa band with a guy with a wah wah. It's so naive. It's so much fun. It's so good. I just like it because it's so much fun. Um, but then we were sitting down to dinner last night, and I was thinking what I was going to put on, and it was Debussy, solo piano, the children's stuff, and it's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful music. But for like every different reason, you know. I mean, I listen to a lot of Beatles these days because I'm working on some Beatles stuff. But in the car, I don't speak any Spanish. All I listen to is the Spanish language station in Allentown because the music is so much better than anything else on the dial. It's just amazing. It's like the stuff that they play on that Spanish language station. It's like 90s dance hall London kind of stuff. It's just so much fun. Um, Great. Lots of guitar in that culture and lots of drums so I'm like right there with it. So it's not a fair question because anything, something's going to kind of poke up and go, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
What's the name of that 70s Peruvian funk thing?
See that right there?
Los Orientales de Paramonga. I
Okay.
love it.
Now there's a lot of this, and there's even some of it in I mean the style, some of it in the in Los Angeles and stuff contemporarily. It's around. It's just not the usual
I'm
exact
into it.
usual stuff. Yeah, it's basically salsa. It's Afro-Cuban with lots of guitar, and so fine. It's more way more folkloric than like the Santana interpretation of Afro-Cuban with lots of guitar. That's a different trick.
My next question here is what have you learned over the course of your life, your career about what it really means to be a great leader?
What? What are you talking about? I don't know anything about. No,
Like what's your favorite
fuck
kind
that.
of person in charge?
Oh, oh, wait a minute. Who said something about that? Oh, um, I kind of like the nice guy approach, you know, a little more Santa Claus, a little less Hitler, kind of thing. Right? If there was, if there was a needle, right?
Somewhere a little more towards the Santa
Yeah,
side.
yeah. That would be the management style I prefer.
Have you ever had to, you know, lay down the law?
Oh, me with people
Yeah.
that I'm working with?
Yeah.
Oh my God, so very rarely. And it would um when it does happen, which is once every 30 years or something like that, um it would only be me being frustrated by a situation that we all found ourselves in through nobody's fault. And I'm just being an idiot, more than anything else. No, I've for the most part, like 99.999%, I try and work with people that I don't have to tell them anything. I don't want to tell them anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want a bass player. What am I going to tell them? I tell George Porter what to do. I tell Alfonso Johnson, play it like this. Andy has. I'm not telling those guys nothing. And then they're in the band because they know so much better than I do. I'm just lucky that they're there.
I love it.
So um, that's most of it for me. It's You want to work with people that are better than you whenever you possibly can, because it really does help. I think all it's a bit of a truism, but all true learning happens on the bandstand. That's where it really happens. Um, you can sit at home and practice it. It doesn't really. You got to actually get on stage and get your ass kicked, and then you go, "Oh, I get it." Right.
And you laugh at it.
I mean, I got my ass kicked so many times. The flip side of that is, I work with such good people all the time. So fortunate to work with so many good people. Then I get paranoid that I'm a burden.
Mm.
Um, that's all. That's a good. There's always you know two sides to this thing. On the one hand, I learn. On the other hand, I feel like it must be a burden to be learning these lessons. So,
All right, Steve. So, you've had quite the career. You've got to do some cool shit. And you also you've got more than one kid, four kids. Four kids.
poor boys.
At least one of them, if not more, to my ignorance, are kind of well known in the music world. And but I want to ask you, I'd love to hear you kind of talk about what you've learned is involved with having your kids blossom, with what makes a great dad.
Wow, that's a hard question. First of all, I think that people that get into music are self-motivated. Like if you really want to play music, you're going to play music, whether your parents want you to or not, or whether you get the right instrument the first time or not. You know what I mean? Um, like I tried a bunch of different instruments. I couldn't even get in the door on a violin. I tried the flute and the saxophone and the piano and the bass and all this stuff. Eventually stuck with the guitar, but nobody could have made me do that. My mom couldn't, nobody could make me do it. Nobody could stop me from doing it. So that's what I thought. So the first part about having a son in this case who's also a musician. I just tried to make sure that he had, you know, what he needed, the space, and was allowed to participate. And but didn't push him. I mean, there's a whole finger wagging, do this without fail thing, and here's your rudiments, and here's the book, and here's the teacher. And now I'm sending you off to music school. And all that. I didn't do any of that. Tried my best not to discourage him. Made sure that he had his own stuff to do and was doing it. That's it. I don't know what to tell you about parenting. I really don't. You just have to love just so unconditionally, and just kind of do your best to stay in it. And you still are going to suffer, the unintended consequences of all your good deeds, man. They just keep coming around, you know. Yeah, it's super tricky. It's super tricky, man. Families are amazing things, and my children are all very, very beautiful, and I love them all very much. And I wish that I could. I always wish that I could do more and do better.
All right, bringing this back to you now. With where you're at today, what would you say in any dimension that comes to mind is the next level for you? What does that look like? Whether that's personally, musically. And I feel like as a person, we're fired up about the fact that there's this next level. Like we want to grow. I'm curious though, but with where you're at, how do you kind of conceive quote unquote next level?
Oh, well, that's another tricky one. Well, I mean, I'm kind of there right now, where things are going to change musically for me, probably a bunch, in the next year. Just because again, this is like the thing about belief. I believe that I should just make the sounds that I hear. I think I should make the sounds that I'm hearing, and they're pretty weird. So I'm going to probably make a couple of records that will be, kind of, I mean, not avant-garde, but I've been working really hard, man, for the last like almost 30 years on this like practical kind of microtonality, and like learning to hear certain kinds of things in tune, and just, just learning to hear sounds together, harmony in its in its an original sense, as things as they are together. So I'm interested in things as they are together. So pitch being on a continuum, then the intervals are also on a continuum. And what are all these intervals? Can I use them? Is there material there that's available to the improviser that is maybe an expansion of the existing framework a little bit? And I think there is. So, just making sounds.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's, that's coming up. I haven't been doing my own band for a while. I've kind of, again, this is, what's the right word? It's the same as same with my trip with pitch, in a way. I've just, there's more stuff out there, more ways to do things, different kinds of ensembles, and I just I've grown a little weary of the, two guitars, bass drums, or guitar, bass drums, or, or two guitars, keyboards, two drummers, a bass player. Yeah, like the traditional stuff, as much as I love it, and I've gotten pretty good at it over the years for a minute. But I would really like to have some different, kinds of instrumentation, you know.
Hmm.
More percussion, more mallet instruments, more, untuned or quasi periodic vibration, and just more sounds. That's what.
Can't wait to be there for it.
Oh, you'll
I like
throw
that
up.
shit.
You'll throw up in your mouth a little bit when you hear it. You'll go, "Are you gotta be kidding me?" Yeah,
Hey,
I'm recording some stuff now, man. It sounds really, 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 I think, really, really cool. And it's I mean, I don't like listening to myself at all. It's just like, ah, you know.
Hmm.
More on that in a minute, but of all the stuff that I've done, like in, I don't know, the last, like, longest time, the stuff that catches my ear uh the most, where I like kind of like lean into it and want to listen to it, is some of these sounds that I'm playing with now, where it's not 12 tone and it's not necessarily pitched, and it's found, and there's lots of space, and I hear that and I'm like, ooh, this is cool. And then when it's over, I'm like, oh, I wish I could hear that. I want to hear some more of that. That's how I feel about it. At the same time, I listen to a gig. I'll play a gig, and there'll be thousands of people at the gig. And I'll listen to the tape of the gig, and I'll go, what is this crap? And it's like everybody's going, yay.
and
it's
people are
like,
just cheering while you're
no,
tuning.
no, literally, man. The guys are coming, with the, they got married, and named the kid after one of the songs, and the guy's got the chart tattooed on his shoulder and stuff. It's just like, so people are so into it and they love it so much, and I'm just horrified by it. Uh, Mostly, you know what I mean. I did hear a thing the other day. My buddy Henry Kaiser called me from Antarctica. Oh, I want to do this old tune that you did. And I told him I haven't played it in 20 years. I don't really remember. So he sent me the record that it was on. He says, this bit right here, what are those chords? Right. And so I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And I made him a little diagram with the chords and said he was all happy. But then I listened to some more into the track, and there was this beautiful steel guitar. It sounded so good, and I was like, oh my God, that's great. Why can't I play like that anymore? At the same time, I remember when the thing was recorded, I listened to it immediately, and I think, what happened to me? I used to be able to play. And I listen to the same track 20 years later and go, why can't I play like that anymore? So my own thing is just too much. I don't know. It's too personal. Squatting on a mirror or something like that. I'm just like, I don't need to look at that.
I can relate. I can
Yeah.
definitely relate.
You know what I mean? Like your own stuff. You do it. So anyway, so the weird thing was when I tried to organize some material in other than 12 tone,
Mhm.
which would be completely unlistenable for most people, I enjoyed it. So, so some stuff is going there for sure. And then there'll be my own band will, I'll go work under my own name, probably with a different, some kind of different format, other than like the standard, rock band. I mean, when we were kids, if you had like You got four guys, and you were the Beatles or the Meters or whoever you were. And I did a whole bunch of that, and I'm not the Beatles and I'm not the Meters, so I'll do something else.
Hell yeah.
See what I mean?
If you 10 years from now could call your current self and like give yourself some advice, what do you think future you would say to you now?
Oh, stop fucking around and get to work. Probably. That's probably the same advice I would give myself at any point. I've been pretty good at kind of like staying on it. But every minute you're not trying to make some progress is a minute you just don't get back, and there's only so many minutes. So
do you ever think though? Do you ever think like progress for what? Like maybe it's like you build the sandcastle at the beach and then the tide just washes it away. It's like what was
oh well, yeah, I mean, not to get too philosophical about it, but our only direction seems to be forward in time, and all indications are the universe is pointless. So what are you going to do, right? Yeah, I mean, it's up to each one of us to find some meaning in the world around us. And then, like I said earlier, if there's some good qualities involved, then that meaning that you find as you manifest it will make people around you lives better somehow.
it feels good to feel good. So
Yeah, it's true.
It's nice to do that stuff.
It's just tricky, like I'm how old am I forget. I'm like 67 or something like that. I'm kind of old, getting old. Not super old, not old like Bob Weir or something like that, but I'm plenty old enough. As I get older, I get more sure of myself and less sure of absolutely everything else. I have no idea how the world got into the shape that it's in. What a mess, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't have any answers. I'm more like myself than ever, and many fewer answers.
There's questions. At least that's all I got.
Yeah, no, I actually don't have I don't have questions as much as I experience curiosity. And it's not like a question. I don't think, should I poke my nose in here? I just poke my nose in, because I'm curious. And then, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So it's not like like I have, questions that I can answer that would prevent me from screwing something up. I can't figure that one out. I just have curiosity.
If there's one takeaway or lesson from your life, your story, your journey, everything you've done and gone through, what you're all about, what would you say that is?
I don't know, man. Maybe it's just like I said before, because it was like the Beatles thing was early for me, but it seems like maybe love really does make all things possible. I like to think that. There's not much more to it. Like, I don't think like life's about like happiness or something like that. Like, I'm not thinking that there's stuff that you should do that'll make you happy, or that happiness is like like a desirable condition, or it's like an answer to a question or something. But love might be, like when you really love something, or you really love somebody, really love your children, really love the feeling at one with nature, you're out in the woods, whatever it is that you really love music. Um, that maybe just allowing yourself to realize that that's what's cool, and just try and be there more, and be less into all the rest of the crap, you know, that people do. Like people do stuff every day. Like me and you are going to go do stuff all for the rest of the day that maybe don't have a lot to do with the things that we love the most, or the people that we love the most. It's like, why are we? Why do we avoid those rewarding situations? Because they're rewarding situations. I'm not sure that was an answer, man. I have to try that again sometime. But it's something like that. Like when I listen to music, I love it so much that I'll just start to cry and stuff. Doesn't matter what it is. If I listen for if I listen just for long enough to get over myself, 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something like that, and just start hearing
That's all it takes you
to get over myself to listen. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean physically. I think physically, if I put something on, like if I'm like, I gotta do this and do that, and work in the studio, I'll put some music on, and after about 15 or 20 minutes, I'm like, I'm in a different place, and then I'll stop and I'll listen, and I'll just be like, the emotion of it. I just feel it so much. I mean, I think, I don't know. It's like I love it, So I feel it.
Steve, I love the way your mind works. I'd love just your whatever. Yeah.
So what's going on?
Dude, thank you so much for taking the time and joining me here. This has been just so awesome.
I'm Katie Daly, producer of Flowers on the Stage. This episode is brought to you by New Belgium Brewing.